Hello and welcome to the Omnex webinar, BRC, Avoiding the Pitfalls. During today's presentation, if you have any questions, enter them in your questions dialog box, and Steve will get to them at the end of the webinar. Today's presentation is being presented by Stephen Hufford. Steve Hufford has extensive experience working in the food industry. As a food safety professional, Steve focused on GFSI, HACCP, sanitation, and prerequisite programs. Stephen has assisted many plants and their preliminary SQF evaluations and conducted SQF gap analysis for their plants. He has consulted on many projects that have enabled plants to achieve FSSC 22000 certification and much more work. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Miles. As Miles was saying, Omnex does a lot of food safety training and consulting. It was founded in 1985. It's headquartered in Ann Arbor, though we can go to other off-site locations to do training. We've done a lot of training in the ISO 9001 area. The group portfolio, we have different groups within Omnex. As you can see, the consulting, the systems, the plan tech, and the training. And we do have a integrated management system. We have offices all over the world. I have a lot of experience in the food industry. I've spent the last 40 years in various aspects of the food industry, from quality and food safety management to consulting. Work for some of the major companies in the United States. The British Retail Consortium is a trade association for the retail industry. It was created in 1992. It has published standards for best practices. The BRC Global Food Standard has been in existence since 1998, and in 2000 was the first food safety standard to be recognized by the GFSI, which is Global Food Safety Initiative Organization, which means the standard has been benchmarked. Standards designed for total quality management program includes both food safety requirements and quality requirements, which food manufacturers must meet. On the agenda, we're going to go over the BRC standard, the BRC audit prep, the pitfalls that can happen to you during an audit compliance, and what non-conformances in the BRC scheme are. As we said, BRC is a global standard. It's now in its 8th issue. It's well established globally. It has evolved with input from many global specifiers. And it gives you a framework to manage your product safety, your integrity, the legality of your product, or quality, and have operational controls for the criteria in the food ingredient manufacturing, processing, and the packing industry. The standard focuses on encouraging development of a product safety culture. Make sure people have that mindset within your facility. Expanding the requirements for environmental monitoring. We reflect the increasing importance of this technique. Encouraging sites to develop systems for security and food defense. Adding clarity to the requirements for food high risk, high care, and ambient high care production risk zones. Providing great clarity for sites, ensuring global applicability and benchmarking to the Global Food Safety Initiative. Global Food Safety Initiative is the organizational body that approves all of these standards. Issue 8 of the standard is divided into 9 sections. The first section may be the very most important, having a senior management commitment. You have to have a commitment from the senior level to develop a good food safety culture. You have to have, therefore necessary for any food safety system to be effective and ensure that application continual development. You have to have senior management committed to having a safe product, to giving you the resources, the people, the machines or capabilities to have a safe product. The second part of the standard is the Food Safety Plan, HACCP. HACCP is Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points. You have to have an effective hazard and risk analysis that enables a company to identify and manage hazards that may pose a risk to safety, quality, and integrity of the products. The standard requires the development of an effective hazard analysis and critical control point program based on the requirements internationally recognized Codex Alimentarius system, which is the basis for all HACCPs throughout the world. So you have to evaluate what kind of risk do you have in your particular product. And different food products have different risks. Some of them have salmonella, some of them have listeria, norovirus. There are various risks, chemical hazards, and physical hazards. So you have to determine what hazards you have in your plant with your product. Third, food safety and quality management system. This section, you ensure the company works to document your systematic management systems that form the basis for your process controls and to produce safe products and meet customer expectations and ensure staff are trained. Training of staff is a very key element of this section. Site standards. This covers suitability, cleanliness, and control of the site, like where your plant is located, how it's built, walls, ceilings, floors, how it can be cleaned, the equipment you have, pest control, foreign body controls, and foreign food defense and site security. That's becoming a very important issue. Product control. Establishing product controls such as allergen management, food fraud, product testing, so you can have a reliable delivery of safe, authentic products. So the product is what you say it is. Process control. These requirements ensure the documented HACCP plan is put into operation on a daily basis. And that you have effective procedures to consistently manufacture the product to the correct quality. Personnel. Training, protective clothing, and hygiene practices. It's very important to have people trained so they know not only what they're doing, but why they're doing it and the importance of it, and for them to follow the hygiene practices that will ensure your food remains safe. High risk, high care, and ambient high care production risk. This is a section dealing with products that are susceptible to potential pathogen contamination and therefore the additional controls to ensure product safety. So this would be some, especially like meat products and different other high-risk dairy products that could become contaminated very easily. Then requirements for traded products. This is a voluntary additional section of the standard for sites that purchase and sell food products that would normally fall within the scope of the standard and are stored at the site's facility, but which are not manufactured, processed, or packed at the site. So this could be some distributors. A lot of the large retail chains, they have distribution centers. So that would be these types of products. So they're buying a product from somebody and they're storing it at their facility until they ship it to another facility for sale. The BRC standard. There are 3 levels of non-conformity. You have a critical level, where there's a critical failure to comply with a food safety or legal issue. This could be water dripping from your ceiling directly onto product. This could be employees handling your product improperly. A food product drops on the floor and they pick it up and they continue to pack it and place it into commerce. A major is where there's substantial failure to meet the requirements of the statement of intent or clause of the standard. So this would be something serious, like perhaps some machinery isn't working correctly, that labeling is not done correctly in several different areas of your facility. So that would be that type. Minors where the clause has not been fully met, but on the basis of objective evidence, the conformity of the product is not in doubt. Okay, so that's just a small issue. Perhaps the product is being packaged incorrectly, but the food safety of the product is okay. It's a minor issue. And here's a translation. Critical is a direct potential food safety or legal issue. Major is not complying with the requirement. Statement of intent. Product is not conforming or serious risk that product will not be conforming. And minor is a small deviation to a clause. Internal audit. GFSI standards require an internal audit of the entire system at least once per year. Prudent companies manage internal audits on a set schedule. You start by dividing sections of the code and then schedule an internal audit each section on a monthly or quarterly basis. Be sure that your schedule enables you to cover the entire code over the course of the year. So you're not just walking through the facility, you're going through your whole program, and make sure that you have that your programs are written correctly, that they meet the GFSI code, and that you're doing what you said you're going to do. So if you wrote the program and it meets the code, but you find out that the personnel are not following what you wrote, then you have to make corrections to that. By auditing smaller sections of code on a more frequent basis, internal teams can take more time to assess the programs, analyze the records, and review the facility conditions as necessary. Number 6 is very important. It's important for the internal auditors to be properly trained how to follow up on possible corrective actions needed. If you find something wrong, you have to take a corrective action to fix it. As a best practice, have a third party complete an internal audit of your system prior to your recertification audit. That can be a consulting company or someone like that. Or you can have employees that are not involved in the department they're auditing do an internal audit. But it's good to have third-party auditors come in from a consulting company or something like that to do your audit. Effective management reviews. BRC requires regular management reviews. They consider the BRC standard. They look at the internal and external audit findings, so any third-party audit you may have had, customer complaints, and corrective actions. Management reviews should happen quarterly. During that time, you assess the BRC system and then compare the results with prior periods. This helps you identify areas that maybe need to be addressed, repair deficiencies or negative trends, and get continuous improvement. GFSI is all about continuous improvement, whether it's the BRC scheme or another scheme. Management reviews must engage senior leadership so they're aware of what's going on with GFSI within your facility. Okay. Coordinate change management procedures. Products, formulations, equipment, and other assets change rapidly. There must be a coordinated change management process to ensure these changes are communicated to all parties. Even if you're buying a machine and the machine does the same function as the older machine that you're replacing, and even if it's produced by the same company, it's a new machine, so you have to evaluate that. You have to make sure that any changes that are made, if they do affect the food safety system, that it's not a negative effect, that you still have a secure food safety system. And you have to make sure people know all the changes, whether it's a formulation or equipment or whatever. The equipment, they obviously need to be trained on the new equipment. So you need to make sure that you're using the most current formulation, and if you do formulation changes, that those are conveyed to your customer. Positive food safety culture. You cannot have readiness at all times in your facility if you don't have a positive food safety culture. That means the employees have to know how important food safety is. Top management must share the vision and commitment. They must show the employees, and that can be done by actions. It can be done by commitment through funds to have a good food safety system, to have good training, to make sure the employees all know not only what to do, but why they're going to do it, why it's important. It's important because if people get sick with their product, it could affect the facility, it could affect the company, everything. So this approach will solidify employees' commitment to follow the programs and handle products properly. Employees must follow the food safety culture and do these type of assessments. If they do not, there has to be actions taken to employees who are not willing to operate in a good food safety culture. You have to drive continuous improvement within your plan. Proactive solutions to avoid non-conformances. Okay, under food safety plans, the HACCP team should have refresher training. That means that you have a person who is an approved HACCP lead instructor, either from outside company or your own company, go over HACCP. HACCP's an ever-changing document, and you must have refresher training so employees will be kept up to date. You must review supporting documents during your annual check. Make sure all the documents are being filled out the way they're supposed to be, that they're accurate, complete. The annual review, you can use an outside set of eyes. That could be a consultant, can help you. I've went in and done whole systems at places before, reviewed all of their deficiencies, their corrective actions, HACCP plans. All CCPs are critical control points. They're part of HACCP. Okay, so they're the places where you make some kind of action to prevent, reduce to an acceptable level, or eliminate a hazard. So being validated means they must show that they're working. Not that you just have them, that you are cooking your product or have a metal detector, but is it working? So you have to look through records and customer complaints and issues like that and see if it's working. And question employees during the internal audit at all CCP monitoring stations. The monitors must know what they're doing, must know that they're measuring for temperature, they're measuring for metal, or whatever the CCP happens to be. They must understand what they're doing so you can have an effective system. Proactive solutions to avoid non-conformances under traceability and recall. Keep your recall team current, including your certification body and your standard owner. The recall team, you must know who's on it, obviously, their contact numbers, and all issues like that. Have procedures for a mock recall and perform mock recalls. You should do that at least twice a year. You should do mock recalls not only just product, a finished product, but raw materials and also packaging materials, and be able to do one step forward and one step back. So where did the product go after you made it, and where did the ingredients come from or the raw materials come from that you used in that product? Make a mock recall be a real test of your system, that it works, that you can recall product. You ought to be able to do it within 2 hours, 4 hours a maximum, but most auditing schemes require 2 hours. Once again, like I said, include ingredients or raw materials and packaging, your traceability. Perform product trace exercises during your own internal audit, different than a mock recall. Okay, so you have to, traceability means how are you locating product? Do you have a code date on it? Do you have a barcode? What do you have? How are you going to know where product goes? Many companies, like I said, especially like McDonald's and some of the big companies, require you to be able to, within 2 hours, tell them the product you made on May 5th. Where is that? So You have to have a good traceability system and practice your mock recalls. Proactive solutions for allergen management. You need to identify the ingredients as allergens at receiving time. If raw materials come in that has an allergen in it, it needs to be identified. Many companies have labels. You have a label for the different 8 allergens, a milk, a soy, egg, the different allergens, fish, seafood, crustacean, shellfish, and they put labels on it. Lots of times the label, it not only says milk or egg on it, but it'll have a picture of a milk carton, a picture of egg, or a picture of fish. That's for people that perhaps are not well versed in speaking English. So they need to be identified at receiving. Specific allergen protein must be validated. In other words, do you have allergens on your product? You can do surface testing, or you can test the product itself. There's different swab kits that you can get. At receipt, you have an inspection program, like I said, and you should label any of the raw ingredients you have that have allergens in them. The reason for labeling is because you have to store them correctly. You have to make sure that you do not store a milk ingredient above an egg ingredient, or milk or egg or any allergen above a non-allergen. So by putting these labels on, you're able to do your storing in your storage area correctly. Allergens must be listed as hazards in the hazard analysis. You list them as an allergen in the allergen management program, but the allergens in the hazard analysis will be listed as a chemical hazard. Proactive solutions for the condition of your equipment and your utensils. You should have a preventive maintenance schedule. How often are you going to check your packaging machine? How often are you going to check your labeling machine? How often are you going to check your metal detector? And you focus the internal audit on equipment, not just employees. And you want to make sure that if say the equipment is breaking after 1 month, that you possibly need a preventive maintenance schedule of every 2 weeks, a sooner maintenance schedule, so you will catch problems. You should use a flashlight when you're conducting internal audits. They will spot lots of things that are wrong. Train and empower production employees to identify defects and give them rewards. Let the employees know that they have the power to possibly stop a line and inform you of a production problem before you get the product produced and out into the commerce. So that's good, and rewards are always good. No temporary repairs. That's in all the GFSIs. They don't want temporary repairs. Temporary repairs are using duct tape, string, plastic, all sorts of things I've saw people use. Cannot make temporary repairs. You have to fix the problem of the machinery, or take the machinery out of service until such time you can make a permanent repair. Okay, proactive solutions to avoid all your non-conformances. Have a strong internal audit program. Your internal auditors, besides looking at all your programs, should look at your facility also. They should be trained people that know how to do these internal audits. Include as many from your facility in the program as possible. Get from different areas: maintenance, production, even HR, different people. Manage all non-conformances corrective action program. So if you find a non-conformance, who is responsible for fixing this? Is it maintenance? Is it operational? Who's responsible? Give them a timeline when they have to have it fixed. And if they don't have it fixed, you'll go to that person and you'll say, why wasn't this corrected on time? Take photos of all findings. This is very good. I mean, with Cell phones nowadays, we can take very, very good photos, and we can enter them on internal audits. Question your employees during your internal audit. Get them accustomed to answering questions. They will be asked questions by a GFSI auditor, BRC auditor. Focus on the facility. Make sure that the facility is in good shape. If you do this audit, as far as the part on the facility, walk very slow. You will see things that you never saw before. Be harder on yourself than anyone else will be. Make the process as formal as possible. That you're like an outside auditor. You're going around, you're seeing what's going on in your facility. Remember, the audit is beyond your normal job. You must schedule and complete it separately from your job. This is a separate activity. Okay. Preparing for the audit long-term planning. When do you want the audit? They'll usually let you schedule the audit when they have availability of an auditor. So when do you want it? Who's going to be performing audit? Who will be involved? Practice with employees. Use internal auditing and continual practice through living it. Okay, 5 best things to do for your audit. Assign responsibility to departments, managed through senior management. Train and inform everyone. On audits, I always, especially department heads, we would have meetings prior to audits. Let everybody know we're going to have an audit on June 4th. You know, and these areas need to be corrected within your department prior to the audit. Get good at internal auditing. Look for help, possibly if you need to hire outside consultants. Organize and anticipate areas where you may be weak at within your facility that you need to improve prior to the audit. Okay. Also, preparing for the audit, who is involved? Well, all staff will be involved at one point. QC and QA and production will be involved. Pest control, many audits, companies will have the pest control provider come to the plant the day of the audit. That's a very good idea. They can answer questions and get them in and out and get through that part of your audit very quickly. Maintenance, purchasing, receiving, and shipping will be part of it. Maintenance, they'll be looking in maintenance area to make sure things are stored correctly. The non-food grade and food grade oil are stored separately. Purchasing, do you have a supplier approval program? Receiving and shipping, how are you receiving the goods? How are they being stored? When you ship goods, how are they being shipped? Are you using seals? Are you checking the trailers to make sure they're clean? The receptionist, that person will be involved. They'll be the first one to let you know the auditor has arrived at the facility. You have to let the auditor come into your facility. If they show up for an audit that you knew about and you do not let them in, you will fail the audit immediately. Set senior management expectations. Let them know, hey, we could use some more personnel to do cleaning. We could use more personnel to do this. Let them know we need this commitment, or we possibly could do poorly on the audit. Preparing for the audit short term. Get your materials prepared. You know they're going to want to look at your programs. Get those. Make sure they're already, you know where they are. The records for all those programs, you know where they are. Do any last minute effort you can. Walk through your facility. Look through your records. Make sure everything's accounted for. You have to have a way to run the business while the audit's happening. Obviously, the food safety people, the BRC person, the QA people are going to be very busy with the audit. But make sure that you have staff that can run the facility while you're doing that. Inform the staff of the audit. You're going to have an audit on this particular day, and the auditor will be asking questions. And then you have service suppliers, and prepare for that. Preparing for the audit logistics for the day. You're going to have an opening meeting. Prior to going in the facility, you need to have some protective equipment, whatever you require, whether it's helmets, bump caps, hair nets, beard nets. You need to take care of the auditor, whatever they require. They're going to need a space to work at, way to hook up, probably Wi-Fi, coffee or water, maybe some snacks throughout the day. You need to have some runners. Those are people that you can stay in the room. If you're the food safety manager, you can stay in the room and you can have possibly some QA people go get records that are needed. There's going to be a daily recap if it's a 2 or 3 day audit, and then there will be a closing meeting after the audit, and the auditor will go over the findings and when you can expect a final report. During the audit, you can do these things: anticipate and provide. That's for the auditor, for your facility. Show off where you do things well or good results. Lead the audit. Take the auditor and show them the area of production that they are auditing. I say area because some facilities do not have all products under a BRC audit. Question and ask for explanation. If they say this is a minor, ask why it is a minor. Get an explanation. They may not have understood what you're doing at your facility and may have misinterpreted and maybe isn't a minor. Expect breakdowns. Let the process take over. There will be things that happen. Okay. The auditor, understand their role, their needs, and their position. They're not there to consult with you. They're there to determine what's going on and determine if you're in compliance. Provide space and time when needed. They may ask you to leave the room while they do some reports. To achieve food safety certification, take commitment and dedication. You have to maintain certification. Takes more commitment and dedication. You have to, once you get certification, you want to maintain it. If you lose that certification, that would be a black mark on you, and it will be hard to get certification back. Focus on high-risk areas first. Keep all levels of the facility engaged. Communicate well. Let them know what's going on. The auditor has been in the raw receiving area, and they're going to be going into some processing areas. Have a strong internal audit program. Don't be afraid to identify issues and focus on corrective action. I know you may not want to say, oh, we have a problem, but the auditor will find that problem. So you need to. There are 10 typical pitfalls. These are in descending order. HACCP. The flow diagram is not accurate, not detailed enough. Your flow diagram has to match your hazard analysis. A building fabric. Condition of the doors, they're not fitting right. Pests can get under it. If you can see light under your door, pests can get under it. They can get on. A mouse can get under a 1/4 inch gap in your door. Pest control itself, you should have the pest control operator be there that day, but pest control will either be something you'll probably get a 95 or 100% score on an audit, but it can kill you. It can be a lot of things. Pest control operators, I find many times, are not completing the records and not doing what they're supposed to be doing, what you're paying them for. So make sure that they are. Housekeeping and hygiene. May not document your cleaning procedure, or it's not detailed enough, or the cleaning's not thorough enough. It could be dusty. Senior management commitment. Objectives are not set for what you're trying to achieve, or you do not do monitoring or reviewing of these objectives. Maintenance. Most companies cannot demonstrate that there's sufficient cleaning and sign-off after maintenance. When maintenance works on something, you should have some kind of a form that they worked on it, that they completed it, that they all the parts and all the tools they took out there, that they brought those back and they were all accounted for. They didn't leave any spare parts out there, and that following them working on it, that the machine was cleaned and signed off by someone. Other pitfalls: staff facility, hand washing facilities not meet the requirements. Many places will have a sink, they'll have some soap, maybe some sanitizer or soap with sanitizer. Sometimes no paper towel, or they'll have paper towel and no trash can. You have to have everything. You have to be sufficient, and employees have to be using it. Internal audits, you may not have the scope of the audit you should have, or the frequency, or the records. You may not even have the records of the internal audit. Glass, brittle plastic, ceramics, and all those type of materials. You have to have a list of all of them, and you have to be checking to make sure that there's no issues with that. Traceability: you have incomplete systems or incomplete application of the system. You can't show how you trace your product. It can be done. I worked with a company that only had 7 employees, and they could trace stuff and do a mock recall within less than 10 minutes. It can be done. Biggest risk to supply chain based on results of BRC audits: management of a food safety plan, recall risk, product adulteration concerns. The product traceability and product withdrawal and recall, that's a problem. Allergen management, the controls and validation. It's the #1 cause of recalls. This year in 2019, there's been many recalls, and about 40% of them are for allergens, for labeling or some type of allergen-related cause. Condition of the equipment and utensils. Sometimes foreign equipment. If you have a poor maintenance program, parts may be getting loose and falling off into the product. Okay, here's the worst thing. These are things you do not want to do during a BRC audit. Have someone say it's QC responsibility. Well, we're going to leave something for the auditor to find. We've been audited before. Trying to misdirect or hide, trying not to show a particular area. Stopping after the audit, unrealistic expectations, and lack of preparation, especially lack of preparation. You have to be ready for the audit. During the audit, don't waste time or stall. If you're stalling, they think that something's wrong, even it may not be. It's a possibility you're having trouble finding a record because you weren't organized, but there is a record. Hide, misdirect, or show partial information. They ask you for information, you have to give it to them. Interrupt interviews or the audit flow. Don't interrupt them, let them talk, and if they ask you a question, you answer. Expect a perfect result. No one should get a perfect BRC audit. Argue every point or where evidence does not support. No, you should not argue with them if you do not have evidence. If you do have a legitimate reason for thinking that should not be, voice your opinion to them in a constructive way, tactfully. Okay, key programs to ensure compliance on a BRC audit. Supplier approval. You should have a good supplier approval program. You should have a way that you select the suppliers, and also a way that they are disqualified. They're looking for a rigorous process. Have documented risk assessment, how you purchase from, who you purchase from. Often companies make the mistake of creating a supplier approval process is not comprehensive enough. The biggest cause for this is providing risk assessments which are not detailed enough to show the audit you have considered all possible risks. There are 4 main areas which you should use to assess suppliers: the volume of raw material you're using, the non-conformances, this will be delivery issues, labeling issues, those type, their delivery performance, and the risk of raw material supply. So is it a raw material that has a lot of risk involved? Okay, cleaning. Cleaning is like a no-brainer, but many companies don't follow and meet the standards. So, some common overlooked areas are hand hygiene, foot washing stations, doors and seals, points of entry and exit, ceilings, pest control, and air quality. Document your cleaning procedures. You should have processes for cleaning the building, the plant, the equipment, how you're going to do environmental monitoring and chemical testing if you use any chemicals such as sanitizers on equipment. Okay, vulnerability assessment. This is kind of a new thing with all the GFSIs. But you have to prove your facility has reasonable measures to ensure the integrity of your raw products. BRC recommends you can look to trade associations and government groups for this, or consultants. The International Association for Food Protection publishes food protection trends. Okay, vulnerability assessment, continue. When conducting your vulnerability assessment, the specific origin of your raw materials, the nature of them, economic factors that may motivate substitution or adulteration. Honey is a product, lots of times people dilute it with non-honey ingredients. Ease of access to raw materials through the supply chain. So can people access the raw materials that are being shipped to you and contaminate them, sabotage them? And then routine testing of raw materials, which can be certificate of analysis that comes in with your raw materials. Risk assessment for suppliers and raw materials. Take these factors into consideration when developing a protocol. Do they have allergens in them? Foreign body risk, what's the chance of something getting into it? Microbiological contamination, chemical contamination, or potential fraud. Control of chemicals. You need to apply control on non-food related chemicals within the production facility, particularly in North America where it's the #1 non-compliance. So make sure that food grade, non-food grade chemicals kept separate. The chemicals cannot get into your finished product. At a minimum, companies should be prepared to display. You should have a list of approved chemicals, your chemical safety data sheets and specs. Where do you use these chemicals in the facility? It should be confirmation of that. You should have documented avoidance of strongly scented products. You should have labeling of all your chemical containers, designated storage area, list of personnel with access, and then training all staff on potential hazards for these chemicals. The key areas of non-compliance BRC audits include general plant maintenance. The premises, walls, ceilings, floors were not clean. Exterior doors were left open. Sometimes people prop doors open to go outside for various reasons, but it'll allow pests to get in the building. Non-food chemicals were stored in a manner which allowed contamination. And equipment was not placed so as to allow for easy maintenance and cleaning. Other non-compliances, traceability of raw materials, packaging, and work in process was not acceptable. A lack of a supplier approval program. Failure to ensure that HACCP plan identifies all relevant potential risk. Many times I see HACCP plans and they'll say none. Biological hazard, chemical hazard, physical hazard. Some of them they'll say none. There is a hazard. It may not be sufficient to have a CCP or even a preventive control, but there is a hazard. By putting none, it causes alarms to go off with the auditor, and they're thinking you're not evaluating all of them sufficiently. Process flow diagrams that do not accurately represent the operation. Your flow diagram from the start of when you receive raw materials all the way till a finished product and it's shipped out the door must include all the major steps. Cannot skip steps. Improper scheduling of internal audits and poor document controls. Nowadays, in the food safety business, you have to have document controls. You have to have documents that show that you've been doing what you said you're going to do. If you don't, you're going to fail your audit. Major level non-conformance is found in BRC audits. So these are majors. The food safety plan, HACCP implementation and training was not sufficient. You did not validate your CCPs, that they were working and effective. A product withdrawal contact list. You didn't have a list of all your customers. That should be an easy one from your accounts receivable department. They should know all your customers, what their address is. Verification of food safety fundamentals. So you're not verifying that you're doing. You're not seeing, are we doing what we said we're going to do? Equipment and utensils conditions is poor. Allergen management program is not effective. An approved supplier program is not sufficient. Minor level nonconformances are found in BRC audit. The equipment and utensils condition is not great, but doesn't rise to the level of a major. Your walls, door, ceiling, and door construction are not sufficient. You have your food safety plan is there, but it's got a minor problem with it. Condition of your floors. This could be one little tile busted in your floor, something not sealed good. Sanitation of your facility is not adequate. You do not have good records. They find a temporary repair. And there will be temporary repairs, whether it's by a maintenance person or by one of your production people. They will do it rather than saying, well, we need something fixed. Door and window closures are not good. And then annual test of your business continuity plan. Business continuity plan is, if we have a fire, if we have a tornado, if the FDA shuts us down, what are we going to do to maintain production? So you have to test your business continuity plan. Most people do a fire alarm test, and then they make up some premise for what actually happened, how they handled the problem, some scenario. Non-conforming system faults, supplier approval. Some of the issues that come up in this section, you're purchasing, not really being involved in the process. Oh, we have somebody we've always bought from, so we're going to continue to buy from. You need to include production in this also, because they need to let people know if there's an issue with the products that are coming into your facility. Let purchasing know because they buy it, and QA because they're the ones who help explain the rules to the group. If you don't have these in place, your audit can be challenging. Companies have great programs in place, but they don't catch all the inventory and raw ingredients that come in by a different route. Some you forget about. Some it's like an emergency, buy from a different supplier than normal. So you have to know what's coming in your door. A good thing is that receiving to have a list of approved suppliers, and if something comes in from somebody that's not an approved supplier, the receiving lets you know. Okay, non-conformance system faults. The most common non-conformities found in this area include the organizational charts missing, designated backup in absence of a responsible person isn't there. So you have to have an organizational chart from top management all the way down to production level. You have to have designated people for the backups for all the people in charge of food safety. That's the food safety manager, QA manager, BRC person. All those people have to have a backup. Management is unable to provide documented work instructions for relevant employees. So you have to have some kind of instruction that shows how the people were told to perform the job. And then employees are not carrying out the work instruction as detailed that you have. Other non-conformances, management of incidents, product withdrawals, and product recalls section. Most common non-conformities found in this area include the list of key contacts in the event of recall are out of date. You should check that on a yearly basis. And you should have after-hour numbers, which nowadays are cell phone numbers, obviously. But you have to have who's in charge. Many food magazines, they will continue to send out your magazine for a year. And then after a year, they ask you to confirm you want to keep receiving the magazine. The reason is because many people move around, like job to job. And so your key contact at your supplier may have left for another position, and you don't know it if you don't check. The time of an internal recall is not captured. What time did you start the recall? What time did you end? You have to know how long that's taking. Like I said, it should be 2 hours or less. The contingency procedure does not capture how incidents are documented, how they're reported to key personnel. You have to report how everything is being done and what corrective actions you took. Okay, pest control. The service scope does not clearly define the responsibilities for the site management or the contractor. You have to put down what are they going to be treating your facility for. They have to have a whole listing of what they're doing, whether it's rodents, birds, everything that they're doing. They have to have a plan right now. Many times this is missing. Pest control maps not updated to identify all pest control devices. They need to update that map when any changes have been made. If you tell them they need to add a trap and they add a trap and they didn't update the map, then there's a problem. An in-depth documented pest control survey based on integrated pest management. They should do a survey, see what you need. They also should have the pest control person, supervisor should come in once a year and evaluate them. Okay, how to address unsatisfactory audit results, corrective actions. If non-conformance has been identified during your audit, set up a detailed plan of corrective action. This plan must be completed within 28 days of the unsatisfactory audit. Otherwise, certification will not be issued. Simply focusing on the actual issue will not suffice. Be prepared to provide proof of your root cause analysis. So, if water's coming through the ceiling tile of your office, the problem isn't the ceiling tile has a hole in it. The problem is you've got a hole in your roof or water getting into your roof. So you have to have the detailed root cause analysis, what you determine to be the problem. Address the issue, but find out what went wrong in the first place so you can demonstrate how you plan to avoid a repeat. Auditors know things can happen, but they expect not to have a repeat. Here's a chart about the non-conformances. So, has a non-conforming resulted in the production of illegal or unsafe product? If no, that's the end of it. If it's yes, then you have a critical non-conformity. Is a non-conformity likely to result in actual risk to the safety of products? No, that's an N. Yes, you have a major non-conformity. Does the site completely or substantially fail to meet an individual requirement? No, then it can be a minor non-conformity. Which yes, it can be a major. Make sure that the non-conformances are closed out effectively and the time scale set. It's no easy task. It doesn't come down to one person. You need to work with people, and they need to be overseen by management. By ensuring non-conformants have a high profile, they should be reviewed by senior management routinely. Communicating KPIs for non-conformance closeout is a good idea, but can easily be overlooked. Review non-conformances are due in the next month. Pluses are overdue. A monthly management means is a good way. Okay, summary. Imagine you're a student who is aware of a major exam schedule for the end of the month. Instead of studying throughout the week leading up to the exam, you decide to cramp the studying in the final 24 hours prior to the exam. You might be thinking to yourself, That leaves far too much to chance. What if there isn't enough time to cover certain concepts in depth or to ensure a full understanding of the whole on the whole? Those are the same concerns that come along with preparing for a BRC audit. The facility manager leaves preparation for the last few weeks leading up to audit will most certainly spell trouble. Because business success hinges on an outstanding audit score, it's easy to understand the dangerous consequences the lack of audit readiness can bring. These audits are available online. The people can see not your score, but they can see if you passed and if you are certified. So at the end of the day, if management is committed to the right food safety practices and will provide adequate resources, food safety will be top of mind and company culture will shift in a positive direction, enabling you to have a successful audit. Listing is some BRC internal audit public trainings that are going to be available. You can contact Omnex now to learn more about these. And we're going to do root cause analysis, food defense, food frauds, KPIs, SPC for food industry, and some standalone PRP prerequisite program training. Omnex also has a ISO 9001 2015 courses. They have some risk-based courses available for training. Some ISO 14001, some other risk courses are available, and some ISO 45001. We have courses understanding, document, implement, and integrated management systems. We have integrated management software that you can purchase. If there's any questions at this time, you could enter them. If not, feel free to drop off the conference. I'm not seeing any questions, so at this time we'll end the webinar. If you do have any questions, you can submit them to Omnex, and we will get back to you with the answers to those questions. Thank you for joining us today.